this was my attempt at basically finding or making a 5 difficulty out of what terrain I had. It's called 5-5-5 because it is 5 stages. Every stage is either 5 difficulty or 5 terrain. So you're either putting your life in danger or you're pulling your hair out through the whole thing. She doesn't like to do that. I will put out a little bit of a hint on this one.
We are.
The answer is right there with what you can see. There isn't anything hidden. It's right there. Good luck.
That doesn't help. You know that, Josh. It's trying to figure out.
Okay. Basically, when I go out to hide a cache, the first thing I do is try to use a location which the average passerby to the area wouldn't know about. I'm sure you guys have all explored the areas around where you grew up, woods or whatever it be, and find the little things tucked back that nobody else knows about. They happen to be driving through your town or maybe stopping to visit on a weekend. I try to highlight a lot of this stuff around my area, be it historical, geological, ghost stories, tales from your area, something that you can get a base from, some kind of interest other than people coming there to look for your cache. Once I get there, I like to I guess try to let myself be drawn to where the average person would think to look. Find a place that has a pile of rocks or a bunch of logs or some general area that has a bunch of places that you could hide something. Some place that when somebody else gets there that's never been there before isn't really sure where to start. There's so many options. Once you find a place like that, there's a couple ways you can go with it. I like to take items out of my hiding place, modify them at home. Take a log that matches the rest of the logs around there, or a rock, or something that looks like it belongs there. Kind of the opposite of what we were doing today, trying to find something that's out of place. Well, how do you make it harder? Make it fit. There's a lot of natural ways you can do that. There's also a lot of urban ways for a lot of you guys that be doing this around the cities. It's not just hiding something. I like to use poems a lot, tricks with words, different languages. The puzzle like 5-5-5, and I try to change it every time. I don't ever try to do something the same. The only way to keep the element of surprise is to keep changing your colors. If you get into a habit of relying on one certain way to think of things or one certain style to hide things, it gets pretty easy, it gets pretty boring. I guess when we started caching, it was geared a lot towards kids. It wasn't difficult to find something. You could take a nice little walk through the woods, and 20 feet before you get there, you know where the thing's at. It wasn't challenging. It just didn't. So I started making things harder in the hopes that other cachers would come along and say, hey, let's try some of this harder stuff, which it's worked out a little bit, but the one other thing I want to talk about. One of the things for a location, I guess, is kind of a trick. If you can't get a place, say you've got a place that you really want to use, there's some history behind it. It's out where nobody else would see it, but it's a place that you know, you really feel comfortable about hiding something there. Another trick that I use is dead zones. With the GPS, you have to be triangulated. Things that interfere with that triangulation would be valleys where you have a hill on either side, where your satellite can't get a signal, in between some buildings, like a couple here on campus that we went after before we came to class. Those can be used in that, say your final location is void of places to hide. It's a small courtyard with sidewalks and grass and maybe a tree. There's not many options. So if you've got a place like that their signal's bouncing around, not putting them right on where they're supposed to be, you can take a not so difficult location and make it a little more difficult. With the containers, I am always on the lookout. This is where the whole thinking outside the box comes into play. It's not necessarily about a location. There's a whole world out there full of locations. You can hide a cache anywhere, but the container is what makes the hide. I see stuff at yard sales, flea markets, dollar stores, craft stores, anything that I can see that I can close up a piece of paper in. One, you look at the container. How can I use this? How can I camouflage this? There's all kind of stuff out there people are using for caches now, and some of them, if you actually dug through all the stuff they've got covering them up, you'd be surprised what they actually are. Sharpie markers, for example, is a good one. Everybody has them. Sharpie goes dead, cut it in half, put the cap on the end, you've got a nice watertight container, and you can slip it about anywhere. I have also been known to use decoys, or red herrings, as we call them in the caching community. This does irritate your fellow geocachers when they find something after they've been searching for an hour that says, nope, try again. They sometimes get upset, but it's another thing that I think kind of adds to the, I don't know, I get a chuckle out of it. Find the wrong thing, it's kind of a poke in the ribs, but I guess I could also put in there that every red herring I've ever put out has been stolen.
More like destroyed.
One of the